Alrighty then, we are on to exercise 15, reading files. You know how to get input from the user with input or argv. Now you will learn about reading from a file. You may have to play with this exercise the most to understand what's going on. So do the exercise carefully and remember your checks. Working with files is an easy way to erase your work if you are not careful. Okay. This exercise involves writing two files. One is a usual exercise 15.py that you will run, but the other is named exercise 15 simple.txt. This second file isn't a script but a plain text we'll be reading in a script. Here's the content of that file. Create reading files, right? Reading files. Get in here. Okay, so I want to create two files and 15 sample.txt sample.txt and this is stuff I typed into a file. This is stuff I typed into a file. Then it is really cool stuff. It is really cool stuff. And then lots and lots of fun to have in here. Lots and lots of fun to have in here. What we want to do is open the file in a script and print it out. However, we do not just want the hard code. We do not just want to hard code the name exercise 15 into a script. Hard coding means putting some bit of information that should come from the user, the string, directly. Okay, that's bad because we want it to load other files later. The solution is to use argv or input to ask the user what file open instead of hard coding the file's name. Okay, so we go text. Okay, text equals, then we simply file name, text equals file name. Here's your file name, here's your file name, and with text. Okay, type the file name again, then we can take the file name again and text again equals and print text. Read. Okay, fancy. So we go from this import argv, then I can take script and then file name, right? This file name equals argv, and we print here's your file, here's your file, the file name, then we read text equals open file name and text dot read, right? Then we print, type the file name again, type the file name again, then we take the file again equals input, right? Input, and give it a prompt, and then we text again equals open file again, and then I want to print the file. Text again dot read, and that is our program. Okay, a few fancy things are going on this file, so let's break it down real quickly. Lines 1 to 3 use argv to get file name. Next we have line 5 where we use a new command open. Right now run pydoc open and read the instructions. Okay, so go python dash pydoc open. Okay, so open we file mode buffering -1 encoding none errors none new line none closed close file descriptor true. Okay, so it closes itself and opener is none. So open file and return open file and return a string. Raise OS error upon failure. Okay. File is either a text or byte string giving the name. Okay. File is either a text or byte string giving the name and the path if the file isn't in the current working directory. Okay, file is either a text or a byte string giving the name, right, file. Path, file descriptor, okay. The file, if the file isn't in the current working directory of the file to be opened or an integer file descriptor of the file to be wrapped. If file descriptor is given, it is closed when the returned I object is closed. Okay, unless close file descriptor is set to false. Mode is an optional. Okay. Mode, then we have mode. Mode is an optional string that specifies the mode in which the file is opened. It defaults to R, right, which means now open for reading in text mode. Other common values are W for writing, truncating the file, truncating the file if it already exists, X for creating and writing to a new file, and A for appending, to which some Unix systems means that all writes append to the end of the file regardless of the current seek position. Okay. In text mode, if encoding is not specified, the encoding is platform dependent. Locale.get encoding is called to get the current local encoding. For reading and writing raw bytes, use binary, leave encoding unspecified. Okay. For reading and writing raw bytes, use binary mode, where there is a binary mode, character mode. Okay, so B for binary mode, T for text mode, which is default. Okay, and plus open a disk for updating, reading or writing. Okay. The default mode is RT. Open for reading text. For binary random access, the mode W plus P opens and truncates the file to 0 bytes. R plus P opens the file without truncation. The X implies W. The X node implies W and raises and file exists error if the file already exists. Okay. Python distinguishes between files opened in binary and text mode even when the underlying operating system doesn't. Files opened in binary mode appending B, so we got B, and these are the RT, RP, WB. Okay. W plus P will open a file for updating, reading or writing. Okay, so it could be A plus P. Okay, so Python distinguishes files opened in binary appending B to the mode argument returns contents as byte objects without any decoding. In text mode, the default or when T is appended to the node argument, the contents of the file are returned as strings. The bytes having been first decoded using a platform dependent encoding or using the specified encoding if given. Buffering is an optional integer used to set the buffering policy. Pass 0 to switch buffering off. Only allowed in binary mode. 1 to select line buffering. Okay. Only usable in text mode. And okay, what is the default buffering? Buffering is -1. Okay. Switch buffering off. Okay, line an integer greater than 1 to indicate the size of fixed size chunk buffered. Okay. When no buffering argument I is given, the default buffering policy works as follows. Binary files are buffered in fixed size chunk. The size of the buffer is chosen using a heuristic trying to determine the underlying device block size and falling back on IO.default block buffer size. On many systems, the buffer will typically be 4096 or okay, 4 kilobytes or 8 kilobytes long. Interactive text file, otherwise files for which iSETI returns true, use line buffering. Other Other text file use policy described above for binary. Encoding is the name of the encoding used to decode or encode the file. This should only be used in text mode. The default encoding is platform dependent, but any encoding supported by Python can be passed. See the codex module for the list. Okay. Then errors is an optional string that specifies how encoding errors are to be handled. This argument should not be used in binary mode. Pass strict to raise a value error exception. If there is an encoding error, the default of none has the same effect of passing, or pass none has the same effect. Okay, value error, the default. Or pass ignore to ignore errors. Note that ignoring encoding errors can lead to data loss. See the documentation for codex.register. For a list of permitted encoding errors, okay, new line controls how universal new lines works. It only applies to ext mode. Okay, it can be none, this. It works as follows. On input, if a new line is none, universal new line mode is enabled. New line. Okay, new line is none. On input, if the new line is none, in universal, your new line node is enabled. Lines in the input can end in -r or r. Return. Okay, new line. And these are translated into before being returned to the caller. If it is this, universal new line mode is enabled, but the line endings are returned to the caller untranslated. Okay, if it has any of the other given legal values, input lines are only terminated by the given string and the line ending is returned to the caller untranslated. On output, if new line is none, okay, characters written are translated to system default line separator. If new line is this and this, no translation takes place. If new line is any other legal value, any new line character written are translated to the given string. If close ft is false, the underlying file descriptor will be kept open when the file is closed. Okay, p by default is true. Okay, this does not work when a file is given and must be true. This does not work when a file name is given and must be true in that case. Okay, so it does not work when a file name is given. Okay. A custom opener can be used by passing a callable opener. We have an opener. Yes. Okay. A custom opener can be used by passing a callable as opener. The underlying file descriptor for the file object is then obtained by the calling opener with file must return similar. Open returns the file object whose type depends on the mode and through which the standard file operations such as reading, writing are performed. When open is used to open a file in text mode, WR, WD, RT, etc., it returns a text IO wrapper. When used to open a file in binary, the returned class varies. In read binary mode, it returns a buffered reader. In write binary and append binary mode, it returns a buffered writer. And in read write mode, it returns a buffered random. Okay. So it is also possible to use a string or byte array as a file for both reading and writing. For strings, string IO can be used like a file opened in a text mode. For bytes, bytes IO can be used. Okay. Right now, PyDoc. Notice how, like your own script as an input, it takes a parameter and returns a value you can set to your variable. We just open a file. Okay. Line 7 prints a little message, but on line 8 we have something very new and exciting. We call a function on txt named read. What you get back from is a file. What you get back from open is a file, and it also has commands you can give. Okay. You give a file a command by using .period operator, the name of the command, and parameter just like open. Parameters just like with open and input. Name of the command, parameters just like with open and input. Okay. So the difference is text.read says hey txt, do you read commands with no parameter? Okay. So the remainder of the file is more of the same, but we'll leave the analysis to you in the study drill. Pay attention, I said pay attention. You have been running scripts with the name of the script, but now you're using argv. You have to add arguments. Look at the very first line of example below. You will see I do Python exercise to run it. See the extra argument after the name. If you do not type, you will get an error, so pay attention. Okay, so let me run exercise 15.py and exercise 15 sample.txt, and I made a mistake. File name, file again, test again, txt. Okay, then I will exercise 15.py, and then I get the rest of the document. Okay, this is a big jump, so be sure to study drill. To do this study drill, above each line, comment out in English what line code does. If you're not sure, ask someone for help or search online. Many times people for Python 3.6 thing will find answers to what that thing does in Python. Try searching for. Okay. I used the word commands here, but commands are also called functions and methods. You will learn about functions and methods later in the book. Get rid of line 10 to 15 where you use input and run the script again. 10 to 15 where you take input, use only input and try the script that way. Why is one way of getting the file name better than another? Okay, using input we can get files at runtime, but using argv you can only do so through the command line arguments and is just a one-time thing. Okay, start Python 3.6. To start Python 3.6 shell and use open from the prompt, just like in this program. Notice how you can open file and run read on them from within. Okay, start and use the open from prompt just like in this program. Okay, so you mean to say Python and then file equals, okay, txt equals open, exercise 15 sample.txt and txt.read. Nice. Okay, print txt.read. What happened? Print txt.read. Huh? Txt equals open exercise 15 sample.txt. Okay, then print txt.read. Okay, but I think after calling read, then print txt.read, it is a blank line. I think it is when you use it like that, it has gone to the last end of file and it is no longer thinking. Okay. Have your script call close on txt and txt again variable. It's important to close file when you are done with them. Okay, so we'll go txt read and go txt dot close and read and then text again dot close. Python size 15 dot py and size 15 sample dot txt. Okay, great. 15 dot py and great. So come student questions. Does txt equals open file name return the content of the file? No, it doesn't. It actually makes something called a file object. You can think of a file like an old tape drive that you saw in mainframe computers in 1950s, or even like a DVD player from today. You can move around inside them and read them, but the DVD player is not the DVD. Is not the DVD the same way the file object is not the file's content. Okay. I can't type code into the terminal PowerShell like you said in study register. First, from the command line, just type Python 3.6, press enter. Now you are in Python 3.6 as we've done a few other times. Then you can type in code and Python will run it in little pieces. Play with that to get out of it. Type quit and hit enter. Then I have, why is there no error when we open the file twice? Python will not restrict you from opening a file more than once, and sometimes this is necessary. Okay. Why does from sys import argv? Okay, for now, just understand the sys is a package, and this phrase just says to get argv feature from the package. You'll learn more about these later. I put the name of the file, but it doesn't work. No, that's not how you do that. File name. Okay. Then we have reading and writing files. Okay. If you did the study results from the last exercise, you should have seen all sorts of command methods function. You can go to files. Here's a list of commands I want you to remember. Okay, can I just run Python file object? Okay. Right. Opens and return open file and returns a stream. Okay. Help on built-in function open in module IO. Returns a stream. Okay, so return the stream, huh? So if I go Python stream, what kind of stream exactly? A stream. File is either a text or byte string. Open file and return a stream. This over upon failure. Okay. The return type depending return the string, right? Okay. Or maybe I can just type in the type, right? I can get the type. Okay. So yeah, Python and txt open exercise 15 sample.txt. Then I want to print type txt text IO. Okay, so this is text IO wrapper. Okay, so can I ask underscore IO, right? Python file dot underscore IO. Okay. Description, help built in module. The IO module provides the Python interface for stream handling. The built-in open function is defined in this module. At the top of the IO hierarchy is the abstract form class IO base. It defines a basic interface to a stream. Note, however, that there is no separation. Okay. note however the top note however that there is no separation between reading and writing to streams. Implementations are allowed to raise a OS error if they do not support a given operation. Extending IO base is raw IO base, which deals with simply reading and writing of raw bytes to a stream. Okay. And an okay. Buffered IO base deals with buffering. Okay, what are the different? Okay, let me go. Of open are intended to be used keyboard arguments. Default. This is class. Buffered IO base, raw IO base, text IO base. The buffered are read write pair. Okay, close, flush is SETI returns whether this is an interactive stream. Returns false if it can't be determined. Peak read and return up to n bytes. Return all of data until end of file. Okay, the byte count. Okay, so we have flush, return and empty bytes checked. Read one, read and return up to size in bytes. Read call to under. Okay, readable returns whether the object is opened for reading. Read into one. Writable, write. Buffered up into buffer b into IO stream. Okay, method inherited from enter next file number. Okay, returns the underlying file descriptor if one exists. File num returns an underlying file descriptor. Okay, if you did the study details from last exercise, they should have seen all sorts of commands method mentioning in give to files. Here's the list of commands I want you to remember. Okay, we have close the file, like file save in your editor. Read the content of the file. You can assign the result to a variable. Read line reads just one line of text. Empties the file. Watch out if you care about the file. Write stuff to the file. Seek, move the read or write location to the beginning of the file. Okay. One way to remember what each of these does is to think of vinyl record, cassette tapes, VHS tapes, DVD or CD player. In the early days of computer, data was stored on each of these kinds of media. So many of the file operations still resemble a storage system that is linear. Tape and DVD drive needs to seek specific spots, and then you can read and write at that spot. Today we have operating system and storage media that blur the line between random access memory and disk drives, but we still use the older idea of a linear tape with a read-write head that must be moved. Okay. From now, these are the important commands you need to know. Some of them take parameters, but we do not really care about that. You only need to remember that write takes a parameter of a string. From now, these are the important commands you need to know. Some of them take parameters, but we do not really care about that. You only need to remember that write takes a parameter of string you want to write to the file. Okay, so let's use some of this to make a simple text editor. Okay. So we're going to erase the file. If you don't want, hit Ctrl C. Okay. If you do want, return enter. Input, opening file name in, then truncating in write mode. Okay, then truncating the file. Goodbye. I'm going to ask you for 3 lines. Get 3 lines. I'm going to write line, then write this, write line, and finally close it. Okay. Okay, so we are just reading a file. We input question mark to wait for the input, user input. And we opening the file. Okay, so this is easy. Right, yeah. Okay. So we'll go back, make a new directory, 16. What is the name? Reading and writing files. Reading and writing files. Then we can size 16.py. Then from sys we import argv. Then we have then we go script. We take the script and the file name for the argv. Then we print. We are now going to erase file name. To erase file name. Then if you don't want that, hit Ctrl C. Okay. There we go. If you don't want that, hit Ctrl C. Else press return. If we do want that, then we take input question mark. Then we go file name. Okay. Then we want to open, right? Then opening the file. Then you go print. Opening the file. Then go target equals open file name. Then truncating the file name. Then you want truncating the file. Goodbye. And we get target dot trunc, or it's truncate. Now I'm going to ask you for 3 lines. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you for 3 lines. Because line 1 equals input. I go line 1, right? This is I've written len, so we are going line 1, line 1. Then we have line 2, line 3, then we will be writing files, right? Right, I'm going to write these files, write these to the file. I'm going to write these to the file. So we are going to go target.write line 1, then target.write new line, we have 3, we have 2, and then we finally close and finally we close it. And finally we close it. Target dot close. Okay. So that's a large file, probably the largest you've typed in. So go slow, do your checks and make it run. One trick is to get the bits of it running at a time. Okay, then we will just run file. Okay, Python exercise 16.py new.txt. Okay, so we are going to erase new.txt, right? Opening file, truncating the file. Okay, I'm going to ask you, hi there, stranger. Okay. I'm going to write this file and I can go type new.txt, so hide the string jar. Okay, what you should see by your done. Okay. Right. Okay, so if you do not understand this, go back through and use the comment trick to get it squared away in your mind. One simple English comment above each line will help you understand, or at least let you know what you need to research more. Okay. We write a script similar to the last exercise that uses read and argv to read the file you just created. We already have that. There's too much repetition in this file. Use a strings format and escape to print out line 1, line 2 with just one target. Oh, right. Okay, we can do that. Um, sorry. Okay, so then I have this as the original code. I can simply append this, right? New target dot write line 1 f of line 1, then new line, line 2, then new line, and then line 3, and then new line. Okay, there's too much. Use strings format and escapes strings format and escapes to write line 1 command instead of 6. Okay, so here I can run the same. Okay. Hello. World. Hello, comma world. Great. Yeah. Find out why we had to pass a W as an extra parameter to open. Hint: open tries to be safe by making you explicitly say you want to write a file. Okay, if you open the file with W mode, then do you really need nope documentation for open function and see if that's true. No, I don't think that is true. I don't need to truncate because if it in open mode, this will work just as fine. Hi there, guys. Yep. Okay. It overwrites, but the thing is, okay, we don't need. Okay, let's say 15. Sorry. Here. Let me hide the guys. How are you? Right. See, if I open this and I only write 3 lines, then the rest, it truncate is to erase all of it, right? Right. Truncate is to erase all of it. Fine. Python. Yes. Okay. So we go. I'll go. Hello world Python, and then type new.txt. Hello there Python. Ooh. Hello there Python. Okay. So it overwrites. Okay. C study drill is truncate necessary with W parameter. Okay, if you open file with Okay, so we don't really need to truncate the file if we open it in write mode. The subsequent write mode. Okay, do not write anything, right? Okay. If I write it in right and what happens then? Okay, this has some content and we have Python new dot. Okay, file name, yeah. Okay, new dot txt. Okay, so this is simple and I have to go with, okay, so it cleans it up. Okay, right. If you open it in write mode, it automatically truncates the file upon opening. I think there was something with Python doc open mode. Okay. Truncating the file if it already exists. Right, there we go. From pydoc mode w. And if writing truncating the file if it already exists. Right. Okay. Then what does w mean? It's really just a string with a character in it for the kind of mode for the file. If you use w, then you are saying open this file in write mode, thus w character. There's also r for read, a for append, and other modifiers. Okay, what modifiers of the file can I use? The most important one to know is plus modifier. So you can do w plus r plus a plus. This will open the file in both read and write modes depending on the character use, position, and file in use. Position the file in different ways. Okay. So just doing open file name, open it in R read mode. Yes, that default mode. Okay, then we have more files. And we are importing exists. Then we would be checking. Right. We don't check. We are calling this function exists to file. Okay. Then we check copying from file to file. Alright then. Okay, so yeah, that's okay. Then we have more files. Now let's do a few more things with files. We'll write a Python script to copy one file to another. We read from one and then write it into another. It'll be very short, but will give you ideas about how things can do, about other things you can do with files. Okay. So exists, os.path import exists. Then we have script from file to file and copying from file to file. We could do this too on we could do these two on one line. How? So that's easy. In data equals open dot read. Okay. Then we got the input. The input file is bytes long, len of in data. Then does the output file exist? Ready, hit enter to continue. We wait for input. Control C to abort. Out file, open out file dot write, then all right, all done, then we close both. Okay. Create a files. Okay, then we make. Alright, so we go import, sorry, from sys import argv, and from os.path import exists, right, exists. Then we take in the file from file, and then to file equals argv, and we copying from this to this, and we go print, copying from to me. Okay. I'll go original code equals in underscore file equals open from file, and we take in data equals in file dot read. Code as in data equals open from file dot read. Okay. Then we go print the input file is dash bytes long, and the input file is len of in data bytes long, and then we have does the file exists, does the file exist, we check exist, we check the output file, does the output file exist. Okay, output file exists, so we go from to file, then we go ready, hit enter to continue, right, ready, and continue, control C to abort, then we take an input and then we out file equals open to file in write mode, then out file dot write in data, and then we go alright, all done, print, alright, all done, and then I can close out file dot close. Should immediately notice that we import another handy command name exists. This returns true if a file exists based on its name this returns true If a file exists based on its name in a string as an argument, it returns false if not. We'll, we'll be using this function in the second half of the book. Okay, false if not. Lot of things, but right now you should see how you can import. Using import is a way to get tons of free code. Other better, well, usually programmers code other better, well, usually programmers have written so you do not have to write it. Okay, what you should see. Okay, so we create a new file. Okay, let's create a say from.txt. Say this this message is contained within from.txt file. Okay, then I'll go with Python exercise 17.py. We go from.txt and to.txt. Okay, and we copying from form to .txt. The input file is 46 bytes long. Does this output file exist? False. Going to continue. Right, all done. Then I can just type to.txt. Okay, so echo. This is a test file. Test. And this is a test file. There we go. That we pass in. Okay, it should work with any file. Try a bunch more and see what happens. Just be careful you do not blast an important file. Okay. Funny. Did you see the trick I did with echo to make a file and cat to show the file? Yes. Okay. This script is really annoying. There's no need to ask you before doing the copy, and it prints too much to the screen. Try to make the script more friendly by removing these features. Okay. There's no need to ask you before doing the copy. Okay, so we are just going to copying this input file. We don't need this. Okay, so we don't need this. We don't need to care about this, and we don't just copying file. All right, all done. So that is all we need. Right, copying from. Right, all done. Okay, see how short can you make the script? I can make this one line long. Okay. See how short you can make the script? I could make this one, but that would be a really long line, no? See how short you can make the script, bro. One line long. How do you go about doing one line long? Okay, notice at the end of what you should see section, I just used something called cat. It's an old command that concatenates files together, but mostly it's just an easy way to print a file to the screen. Just man cat to read about it. Find out what you had to find out why you had to write outfile.close in the code. Okay, go read up Python's import statement. Start Python 3.6 on try importing some things and see if you can get it right. It's alright if you do not. Okay. Why is W in quotes? That's a string. You must be a string. Okay. Now, no way you can make this one line. That depends on how you define one line of code. Okay. Clever. Okay. Then is it normal to feel like this exercise was really hard? Yes, it is totally normal. Programming may not click for you until you maybe exercise 37, or it might not until you finish the book. and make something with Python. Everyone is different, so keep going and keep revising exercises that you have actual until it clicks. Be patient. What does len function do? It gets the length of the string. Right, we can call. Okay, so basically we can call regular. We can use a regular code inside this. Okay, when I try to make the script shorter, I get an error when I close the file at the end. In file dot close. Okay. He probably did something like data equals, which means you don't need to do try close when you reach the end. It should already be closed by the Python once the line 1 runs. Okay. I get syntax end of line while scanning string literal error. You forgot to end a string properly with a quote. Go look at that. Okay, then next time we will learn about name variable code functions. Ooh, functions, multiple arguments. Okay, so that's it.